The Madman! All the cards from BOOMSDAY have finally been revealed. This first part is going to review all the cards that were revealed on the stream, and then the second part is going to review all of the other cards that were dumped onto the website. Let's begin with Dino Medic. 5 mana 3/4 Mech for Warrior. Battlecry, deal 5 damage, randomly split among all minions except mechs. So this is a very interesting addition to the Mech Warrior deck. Or maybe not even just Mech Warrior deck. It seems like it could be good enough to just be run in a control deck. Because in a control warrior deck, you're either going to have mechs on your side of the board, or you're going to have nothing on your side of the board. Which means that it's 5 mana 3/4, deal 5 damage to enemy minions. And if only 1 damage is dealt to a minion, you can execute it. You can also use it to activate your Acolyte of Pain to draw 3 cards. I did a little bit of review of what the Mech Warrior, Mech Paladin, Mech Hunter deck is going to look like, and I think that Dino Medic stands a decent chance of being run in these Control Warrior decks. There's an argument that Bomb Lobber didn't see play, so this won't either, but this could kill 2 minions, which Bomb Lobber can't do, and this can also kill big minions with Execute at a less damage wasted rate than Bomb Lobber. It's also got more stats than Bomb Lobber, it also does a little bit more damage than Bomb Lobber, and Bomb Lobber was close to being played. Next up we've got Bronze Gatekeeper, which is a 3 mana 1/5 mech with taunt. Perhaps the most important part though is that it's magnetic. You want to put this on a key card that is a mech, maybe one with really high amounts of health. This card isn't as good as Tar Creeper obviously when you just play it on 3, but what if you played the Framebot, and then you played Bronze Gatekeeper? That's a 2/10 taunt on turn 3. And boy are aggro decks going to have a fit against that. They'll call you a cheater, but you're playing a card that might not be very popular in the meta, so you have the right of way here. Next we have Skaterbot. 1 mana 1/1 Magnetic Rush Mech. Think of this as basically a spell. 1 mana +1/+1 to a mech and rush. And the question is that good enough as a spell? While it's difficult to think of how this would be good enough to put into a current mech deck, into like a standard mech deck with all these cards, just because the effect isn't that much, I guess I'll talk about the wild combo. With Glinda and a Mech Warper, Skaterbot will add infinite damage, infinite +1/+1 to a mech, and then you can just hit the face. So 8 mana, win the game if you have a mech in play that's not removed by the opponent. I don't know how fast you can pull it all off, but practically it's that. The Druid Legendary spell has finally been released, and everyone's crying about it! 1 mana, Floop's Glorious Gloop. Whenever a minion dies this turn, gain 1 mana crystal this turn only. So the theory is you'd probably want this in Token Druid because you're not likely to kill that many minions in a control deck. So in that case, this is just a snowball card if you already have tokens out and you would prefer to have just Power of the Wild or Savage Roar. So in the very specific situation where you want to trade with your Token Druid, which is unlikely anyways, you need to trade in a total of killing 3 minions for it to be Innervate. It's like, that sounds like a lot of work. I don't think Floop's Glorious Gloop is nearly as good as the hype is saying. Next up, we've got the neutral 4 mana 4/4 Coppertail Imposter. Battlecry gains stealth until your next turn and is a mech. And it's stealth because the enemies cannot possibly tell that it's not a squirrel. Haha, tricked. The reason why this is really good is because having evaluated all of the mech cards, it seems like a big reason to run mech in an aggro deck is because of War Gear, and War Gear curves perfectly into Coppertail Imposter. You play the Coppertail Imposter, your opponent probably can't deal with it on curve. You magnetize the War Gear onto that and you have an attacking 9/9. Seems like a thing that most aggro mech decks are going to try to work in. Druid gets a 6 mana 3/4 Tending Tauren. Choose one, give your other minions +1/+1, or summon 2/2/2 Treants. It's Small Scenarius. This is pretty good in theory because it's 6 mana for a total of 7/8 in stats. I think this doesn't quite make the cut because Fungal Mancer is 5 mana 6/6 in stats, but 4/4 of it has charge due to it buffing 2 cards already on the board. Something worth mentioning is that Scenarius is seeing some play in Token Druids right now, And Tending Tauren costs an inconvenient amount of mana with Soul of the Forest. That's another way to get a bunch of tokens on the board. So I could see some possibilities there. This does summon Treants, which in theory is good for a Treant deck, but there are no other Treant synergies, as in, you know, cards that take advantage of having Treants other than the two already revealed. So, in my personal opinion, that Treant deck is not going to happen. Next up, we've got Makino Egg, 5 mana, 0/5. Welcome to the biggest egg of all time. Has science gone too far? It's a mech also, a mechanical egg. Death Rattle summoned an 8/8 Robosaur, which is also a mech. This card might be the deck that Mech Paladin is built around. A very impressive payoff. 5 mana for 8/13 worth of stats, though some amount of work is needed in order to make this mech actually work. Maybe this makes there be a lot more silence in the meta, and then maybe we skip to decks that don't get hurt by silence, such as Shutterwalk or Malagos decks, and then maybe people figure out, wait a second, we overreacted with silence against Magnetize, and then maybe Makino Egg is good again. So that's the meta in the next 2 months in 30 seconds. So it fits a very similar role than Skelemancer. It should probably be better, and the key is it's a mech, so you can actually put on a bunch of the magnetized stuff on here, such as war gear. When your egg is going to war, that's a very scary sight indeed. If you actually do end up with a war gear egg, and it dies, and it summons the Robosaur, when you finally get your Paladin Legendary, Kangor's Endless Army, and you get your Robosaur and your Makino Egg, that's some really good value. You can even put Glowtron on it. 1 mana, 1/3 mech. Very nice, handy tool for paladins. I could see mid-range paladins playing it. I could see the current odd paladin playing it. Odd paladin is currently sometimes running Dire Maul. So Glowtron is a strict buff on Dire Maul because at the very least you could magnetize Glowtron onto Glowtron sometimes. But maybe some sort of odd paladin with mech theme will come about. Warrior's project is Weapons Project. 2 mana, each player equips a 2/3 weapon and gains 6 armor. This is a really interesting card because the 6 armor kind of negates the 2/3 weapon if the 2/3 weapon were only used to hit the face. This is used for weapon removal also because it replaces their weapon with a 2/3 weapon. And not just that, you give them a weapon, and Control Warrior often has in the past run Harrison Jones, so now you can make sure that your Harrison Jones always, at the very least against any class, draws 3 cards. So that's incredible actually. 7 mana, get a 2/3 weapon, get a 5/4 in play, gain 6 armor, and draw 3 cards. That's almost like Ultimate Infestation. You don't have to run Ooze anymore. It's great. Warlock has a bit of a theme of damaging themselves now, and they also have a theme of hand buffs. Let's start with Spirit Bomb. 2 mana, deal 4 damage to a minion and your hero. It's Dark Bomb, except it costs 4 extra damage to yourself and 1 more damage to a minion. Or you could think of it as Shadow Bolt, except it's 1 mana less and it deals 4 damage to yourself. It's pretty painful, but it does work in Even Lock. Even Lock doesn't have that many ways to single target remove, so Spirit Bomb just might make its way in there. Maybe in an aggressive deck, you don't care that much that you take 4 damage. This really synergizes with the Hooked Reaver. It also synergizes with Nether Soul Buster, 3 mana 1/5 demon for Warlock. Battlecry, gain +1 attack for each damage your hero has taken this turn. So if you play this on the same turn with Spirit Bomb, it's a 3 mana 5/5. At the very least, Nether Soul Buster is going to be a 5 mana 3/5, and you just tap with it. Like, yeah, that doesn't seem that bad. It's a little bit slow and zoo if you only use it for that purpose, though. So it seems like in order for this to be good, if it is good, you do need to run some self-damage cards with it, such as Crystallizer, maybe? Crystallizer into that is an interesting combo. Crystallizer by itself is a 1 mana 1/3, which is already decent. Battlecry, deal 5 damage to your hero, gain 5 armor. There's 3 main uses for this card. One is in Warrior, sometimes armor matters for something like Shield Slam. One is in classes that can heal. This gives you an opportunity to start healing a little bit faster. And one is with the aforementioned Nether Soul Buster. If you play Nether Soul Buster and Crystallizer on the same turn, the Nether Soul Buster is a 3 mana 6/5. And it's all on a very aggressively statted card. It's already a 1 mana 1/3, so very nice utility on a 1 mana 1/3. I don't actually know if it's good enough to see play, but there's some minor cons to it as well. Like, if you're at 5 health or lower, you cannot play this card, but that's probably very minor. Warlock has this hand buff theme now also. 1 mana spell, give the leftmost minion in your hand +2/+2. What you're really looking to do is to get a minion which doubles or even triples itself into the leftmost of your hand, so that Soul Infusion can infuse +4/+4 worth of total stats. That would be with a card like Doubling Imp, which is the new 3 mana 2/2 demon, Battle Cry, summon a copy of this minion. This is actually really good because on its baseline it's already just a 3 mana 4/4. But if you get the Soul Infusion on this is a 3 mana 8/8. My goodness. Zero Night Chain Gang loves this. The Omega card for Warlock likes this a lot because you're spending 1 mana for +6/+6 then. That might be a little bit too late though, since you can only play it on turn 10. But that just might work because Omega Agent, being a card that you want to hold until turn 10, will naturally find its way into the left side of your hand. So on turn 10, when you play this 5 mana 3/6/7s, that's a lot of tempo swing right there. Next up, we have a card where if you ignore the text on it, under the stealth, it's really good. 4 mana 5/6 legendary Harbinger Celestia. Stealth? So far so good. After your opponent plays a minion, become a copy of it, and ruined. Basically a 4 mana mirror entity, which you play face up. Has a small benefit that if the opponent has no minions in their deck, we're looking at you, Spellhunter, that's 4 mana 5/6 stealth, which is really good. If you're playing against a deck that only has big minions in it, then yeah, it's good. But if you're playing against anything else, it's a 4 mana 1/2 or something like that. Yikes. There's no way this will ever work. 4 mana 3/2 Explodinator, an interesting mech option for Mech Hunter, probably specifically. Battlecry, summon 2/0/2 Goblin Bombs. And the reason why I say Mech Hunter is because Mech Hunter is probably the aggressive deck, and you'd only run this in an aggressive deck because the main reason that you want Goblin Bombs is to hit the face. If you're only killing the Goblin Bombs though, then this isn't very good because then it's just 4 mana 3/2, deal 4 damage to the opponent, in which case you might as well just run Life Drinker. So you're really looking to actually buff the bomb so you can make use of the 2 health, I'd say. Otherwise, it is just a 4 mana 3/2. And that's no good. And Hunter does have a Goblin Bomb kind of theme because one of their spells is 2 mana Bomb Toss, deal 2 damage, summon a 0/2 Goblin Bomb. This also has 2 kind of modes. You can think of it as deal 2 damage to your opponent's minion and 2 damage to face, or maybe even 2 mana, deal 4 damage to the opponent's face. But where it really gets even better is if you can actually utilize that Goblin Bomb. If your opponent has to trade into it, then you also ended up healing for 2. Priest gets Test Subject, which is kind of a reprint of Primal Fin Champion, but for Priest. And this could be really different because Priest does have a lot of good spells you want to cast on minions also. 1 mana, Test Subject, Death Rattle, return any spells you cast on this minion to your hand. 0/2 to begin with. Pretty valuable if you manage to just get the Power Word Shield back, because then it's kind of like this was also Power Word Shield. Where this could potentially be insane is Divine Shield Inner Fire is already a Priest deck, and maybe they can just fit in Test Subject in here. If you copy the Test Subject after it already has its buffs, you get mega amount of spells back as well. So we're talking about if you Vivid Nightmare in Test Subject. But yeah, you put the Power Word Shield on here, you put the Divine Spirit on it, you put the Inner Fire on it. You swing your 8/8 with it, and you get your Power Word Shield, your Inner Fire, and your Divine Spirit back. That seems like it actually could see play. You could also put extra arms on it, but this one I'm not feeling particularly great on, since 3 mana spell, give a minion +2/+2, add more arms to your hand that gives +2/+2. More arms is a 3 mana spell that just gives a minion +2/+2. No, you don't get more arms after the more arms. Very flavorful and very cool card to put on a Test Subject since you can get back your extra arms and your more arms. but that is kind of 6 mana for +4/+4, which is not that much. Mage gets Astral Rift, 2 mana spell, add 2 random minions to your hand. I was theorizing about if this card were actually any good, and it would be too OP at 1 mana, and it would be too underpowered at 3 mana, obviously, because it's supposed to be a card that gets you less good Arcane Intellect cards. This card compares also to Book of Specters, which will usually get you 2 to 3 cards in a minion heavy deck, more close to 3 cards. And I think Astral Rift probably is not going to see that much play because, like, if you're playing Tempo Mage, you cannot afford to play this slow card which might get you trash. If you're playing a Control Mage, you rarely want minions, and the risk of getting bad minions is just too high. Would only really see play in a Value Mage deck, but I don't think that actually exists at the moment. Value decks are not very good. That card, Astral Rift, as well as Research Project, are printed mainly to push the idea of big hand mage. Research Project is 2 mana, each player draws 2 cards, which is basically Old Cold Light Oracle at 1 fewer mana. And that might look good until you realize that Old Cold Light Oracle was run in Mage, but only in the days where Mage could actually stall out the game with Ice Block. Now though, I'm not entirely sure that they would want to run this. Quest Mage is nowhere to be seen. This is not going to bring Quest Mage back. There's no real combo wombo deck that you can pull together as a mage. This card is one of the few cards that gives you card disadvantage when played, because this card itself is 1 card, and then you draw 2 cards, so +1 card there, but you're giving your opponent 2 cards, so it's actually -1 in terms of card advantage. So for it to see play, you'd need a very specific either combo deck or an extremely aggressive deck where you kill your opponent before they're able to make use of the extra card advantage. Secret Plan, 1 mana, discover a secret. This could be a addition to the Spell Hunter right now. Maybe it takes out the worst card in Spell Hunter. The discover a secret is a really interesting idea because Hunter secrets are geared towards either protecting your face or protecting your minions or other things. That really differs based off of your opponent. If you're playing against Shudderwock or against Druid, for example, then Rat Trap is a really good card, whereas a lot of the other usually good cards aren't that good. Interesting stuff. Could see that being run in Spell Hunter. 5 mana 3/6, Necro Mechanic, your Death Rattle's triggered twice. 1 mana more than Baron Rivendare. Given that Baron Rivendare has not seen play ever, but it rotated out a while ago, are there enough Death Rattles now to actually run it? And there is now a Death Rattle Hunter deck. Play the Egg, Double Soar Egg, you play Dead It, you Terraskill Stalker it. Having that trigger twice, that might be a bit overkill. It's really slow. It's a card that enables a card that is enabled by another card. I think we might just be going too high of levels there. This is one of the cards that allows you to cube your cube. As a new player, sometimes you think that cubing your cube might actually work, and then you're sorely disappointed when cube only brings back cube without the original Death Rattles. But with Necro Mechanic, you send your cube in, and then you're getting 4 copies of the card you cubed. If it's your King Crush, then you're getting 4 copies of King Crush. That is 32 damage. Wow. It's really specific. It's a card that can only be played after cube, but there are also a few other Death Rattles out there. It's interesting enough to see some real consideration, and it has some big stats on it also. 5 mana for 6 health, has a decent chance of surviving, so it'll take your opponent's removal if you're ahead on board, or if you're even on board. Flux Boomzooka, summon 3 minions from your deck. They attack enemy minions, then die. That is to say that they will randomly attack the enemy minions immediately. Note that Flux Boomzooka sadly does not work that well with Necro Mechanic, because Necro Mechanic will end up dying around the same time as your other Death Rattles. Unfortunate, but where you're probably looking to get value out of Flux Boomzooka is you pull the Silver Vanguards and your Katharina out of your deck, and then you use your Silver Vanguards and Katharina to pull out the Lich King and your Charged Devil Swords and your King Crush out of your deck. So it requires a little bit of high rolling that Flux Boomzooka does not pull the Charged Devil Swords and the King Crush from your deck. But even if they do, that's not necessarily that bad because you're attacking random enemy minions with your Devil Swords and your King Crush, and that's theoretically okay. The main problem is Flux Boomzooka can also pull the support cards in that general deck, and that's not very good then. Okay, we've recorded 1 hour of video. Good luck, Jens. Part 2 soon.
The good and the bad times, we've been through them all. Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around. The Inspira, Wheezing Seal, Gyarados Slowbro, gotta catch 'em all, gotta catch 'em all.